Gotta move!
Call of Duty used to be the king of shooters. Now, it's almost unrecognizable. A franchise propped up by celebrity cameos, cash grab battle passes, and annual releases that all blend together and feel the same. I like to think I'm one of the lucky few who grew up during the golden age of COD, back when each game felt like a completely different experience. Back when you'd jump from fighting through the hellish streets of Stalingrad with nothing but a rifle and Reznob's voice in your ear, to navigating the tense urban warfare of Modern Warfare's Middle East. It felt like every release brought something new to the table. The series didn't just dominate the war FPS genre, it reinvented itself constantly and cemented its crown as the king of shooters. Most importantly though, this was a time when the focus was on strong, cinematic, single-player campaigns paired with addictive multiplayer that wasn't riddled with microtransactions and cosmetic clutter. I have vivid memories of grinding through each campaign on Veteran, starting with Call of Duty II on the Xbox 360, then pushing myself through Modern Warfare, World at War, and every title that followed. It was brutal and frustrating at times, but every minute felt worth it because these games weren't afraid to take risks and you never knew what was around the next corner. The developers weren't boxed in, they iterated with every release and brought ideas to the table no one else dared to at the time. Call of Duty was the undisputed pinnacle of the FPS genre. The players knew it, the developers knew it, and each release was critically acclaimed, and rightly so. These were fantastic games in their own right, crafted with care and vision. They didn't feel like cynical cash grabs, but like genuine, distinct experiences, with each one worthy of your time and attention. Compare that to now, where each annual release feels like the same recycled experience with a fresh coat of paint slapped over the top. Instead of bold leaps between Modern Warfare and World War II, we're stuck with back-to-back Black Ops games and copy-and-paste mechanics. It's repetitive, it's stale, and it lacks the spark of innovation that once defined the franchise. Maybe Activision knows the audience will show up regardless. Maybe they've got nothing left to prove, and they're happy to let the cash keep rolling in. Either way, it feels like we lost something special, a franchise that once earned its place at the top and left competitors like Battlefield scrambling to catch up. That's why when Call of Duty World War II was announced, I felt genuinely excited for the first time in years. It felt like Sledgehammer Games was finally steering the ship back on its right course, away from the jetpacks and laser rifles of Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare, and back to where it all began. This was their chance to strip COD back to its roots, with the focus on a boots-on-the-ground, visceral, historically accurate World War II experience, while using modern technology to reimagine the series for a new generation. It wasn't just nostalgia bait, it felt like a respectful nod to what made these games iconic in the first place, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the magic might return.
All right, first platoon, we're rolling out. Let's go, let's go.
When Sledgehammer Games set out to create this nostalgia piece, they spent over 2 years researching to craft a grounded, realistic experience. They travelled across Europe, spoke with World War II veterans, and used photogrammetry to recreate real-world environments and weaponry in stunning detail. Their goal was simple: put you, the player, in the boots of a young soldier of that era.
You know, one of the things that's maybe a little different about this game is this isn't about a super soldier. This isn't about a tier 1 operator. These are 19, 20-year-old guys who are going into combat for the first time. So a lot of our story, and even the way we have soldiers move and act in the game, you know, you want to be authentic to that.
But they also wanted to retain the signature Call of Duty blockbuster moments. Finding the right balance between emotional, grounded storytelling and over-the-top action wasn't easy, and it became one of the biggest challenges during development.
I think it's walking that line between authenticity and making a big cinematic blockbuster, which is, of course, what Call of Duty is. So, you know, we had to kind of not go too far in either direction. You don't want to get, you know, lost in the weeds of little details. You don't want to do something that's too over the top and throws people out of the experience. So I think it's really that push and pull of trying to create something very believable, but also very exciting.
You feel this balance right away when you jump into the game. Sledgehammer Games masterfully blends those intense blockbuster moments with quieter, more personal ones. Normandy's beaches were recreated with painstaking detail, blood-soaked sand, deafening gunfire, but also those calm, eerie pauses where you start to really take in your surroundings. It all works together to throw you straight into that Saving Private Ryan style chaos from the very first mission.
Pull it! Pull it! Fire the hole! Come on! It's ready! Clear the shingle! Fire the hole! Fire the hole! Fire the hole!
That level of care and attention is felt throughout the campaign, with smart design choices and mechanics that help break up the pace of its roughly 4-hour runtime. And it's no surprise when you have someone like Glenn Schofield at the helm, a developer with serious pedigree. This is the guy behind Dead Space, a game that still stands tall as one of the greatest survival horror experiences ever made. Schofield brought lessons from that project into World War II, focusing on layering during development, essentially stacking multiple systems and effects to create moments of tension and spectacle, allowing for a much more efficient development process.
We still use layering today. I mean, it's just really finely cutting a problem into all these different sections and then just saying this one needs to come first and this one needs second, this follows that. Things don't always work out perfectly, but, you know, that just kind of breaks down a big, hairy problem.
Take one of the game's best set pieces, a crumbling bell tower collapsing around you as you desperately try to escape. It's a moment that feels massive and chaotic, but thanks to Schofield's vision and efficient design practices, it became one of the campaign's most memorable sequences without blowing the development timeline and budget apart.
We had a section where a RPG, you're up on the top of a bell tower in a church, and an RPG hits the top of the church, and the bell starts to fall all the way down through the tower. And what I wanted was you, the player, just trying to get away from it just by split seconds, right? And so that's another one of those layered ones. If we just said, okay, make it fall, and then, Joe, you be animating him going around, it would never have lined up because it was really a complicated problem. So we broke it down. The first thing was like, we've built this thing. We know where it's going to go. Just animate the bell coming down. Then animate the character at the first stop. What happens when he sees the bell? And then from there, what's great about layering, instead of just doing it all in one, we had the bell come down. But as we come down to a section here where the bell is hitting the inside of the tower, we can now put special effects. We can now put extra stuff because we've broken the problem into many sections.
Call of Duty World War II wears its narrative inspirations proudly on its sleeve, drawing heavily from Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers. It mirrors their themes of brotherhood, sacrifice, and unity, pulling you into a grounded, realistic story about a squad of soldiers fighting to survive amidst the chaos of war. The cast also helps sell this cinematic tone, with notable Hollywood actors like Josh Duhamel and Jeffrey Pierce delivering strong performances that blur the line between film and video game. Their presence gives the campaign an emotional weight and authenticity you don't often see in modern shooters. The story grabs you right from the opening mission and never lets go. It's tightly paced, with no moments that feel like filler or unrealistic. It's grounded, emotional, and keeps you invested all the way through. Also, this brotherhood dynamic isn't just a narrative flourish, it's baked directly into the gameplay. Your squad mates aren't there as passive background noise. They actively support you in combat, throwing you medkits when you're low on health, resupplying ammo and grenades, and even tagging enemy positions to give you a tactical edge. It's a clear evolution of the classic squad system that makes their presence feel meaningful rather than scripted. When they've got your back in the heat of battle, it feels earned, not artificial. This sense of unity bleeds seamlessly into the dialogue and cutscenes too, capturing that Band of Brothers energy and giving the story a surprising amount of emotional weight.
Maybe he's showing us what's wrong with you? Quit screwing around!
I played the campaign on Hardened, which is the second hardest difficulty, and it quickly became clear how vital your squad mates are for survival. I mentioned medkits earlier, and for those familiar with Call of Duty campaigns, you'll know that for over a decade the norm was regenerating health. You take some damage, then duck behind cover, and wait until you magically heal back to full. World War II is the first entry since the original 2003 game to bring back medkits, and it completely changes how you approach combat. Every encounter feels more tense, every bullet carries weight, and suddenly your positioning and awareness are crucial. There's even a new mechanic introduced where you can knock tables over for temporary cover. You're forced to think tactically, scavenging for medkits and relying on your squadmate to throw you one in a pinch. On higher difficulties, this mechanic makes victories feel genuinely hard-earned and adds a layer of authenticity the series had been missing for years. It's another smart decision from Sledgehammer Games. The campaign strikes a smart balance between bombastic set pieces and quieter, more intimate moments that ratchet up the tension. You've got the adrenaline-fueled chaos of the bell tower collapse, the frantic train chase, tank battles that feel weighty and destructive, artillery segments where you rain hellfire, and even a flying section that flips a perspective entirely. But then it slows down, trading explosions for a quieter, more tense moment. One standout section has you stepping into the shoes of a French resistance spy, forced to memorize a fabricated cover identity and bluff your way past a sharp-eyed German officer in a white-knuckle standoff, clearly inspired by Tarantino's signature tension building, and it's one of the most gripping moments in the entire campaign.
Now, if you will indulge me, perhaps we can converse in English, for as you know, I'm sure practice makes perfect.
Je crois savoir que vous parlez en anglais tout à fait correct, n'est-ce pas?
Right.
Another has you sneaking through a basement while carrying a child to safety, simple in design, but dripping with tension and emotional weight. These shifts in tone break up the corridor-heavy shooting and keep the campaign from ever feeling stale, adding a layer of variety that Call of Duty campaigns hadn't explored in years. During gameplay, enemy AI is surprisingly sharp, constantly seeking cover, laying down suppressing fire, and flanking whenever the opportunity arises, which keeps you on edge and adds real tension to firefights. They're also extremely accurate when throwing grenades, so good to know the Germans haven't lost their touch from the grenade spam simulator that was World at War.
And everything seemed to be going so well.
Every gun has its own unique recoil pattern, weight, and a satisfying punch that makes every shot really count. Shooting enemies is genuinely fun, especially with the variety you get. Foot soldiers, dogs, snipers, flamethrowers, you name it. Now pair that with a stellar sound design, thunderous gunfire, mechanical reloads, crisp ambient effects, and you can quickly see how combat becomes a pure joy to play. It's got that unmistakable Call of Duty polish, tight, responsive controls, fluid mechanics, and a level of refinement that feels like a natural evolution from the series' golden age. Technically though, this is where World War II really shines. Pre-rendered cutscenes look like film trailers, while in-game cinematics nail lighting, lip-sync, and character animations. And the environments? Absolutely dripping in authenticity. Every battlefield feels alive and war-torn, packed with detail and historical accuracy. You're fighting in iconic World War II locations with that classic boots-on-the-ground feel. It nails the atmosphere it's going for.
Go left! Get up that hill!
But the campaign isn't without its shortcomings. It's short, clocking in at around 4 to 6 hours, and some sections lean a little too heavily on cutscenes, quick-time events, and forced pacing. At times, the game wrestles control away from you for the sake of cinematic flair, which can feel abrupt and break immersion. While these moments are designed to keep the action engaging, I'd argue the game doesn't always need to rely on them to hold your attention. During gameplay, there's also moments of heroic prompts, like dragging wounded squadmates or forcing enemies to surrender. They sound great on paper, but in practice they can feel awkward and clunky to execute. Friendly AI also has its moments. Most of the time they're helpful, but occasionally they'll freeze under pressure, leaving enemy squads to flank you, and on higher difficulties, that can be incredibly frustrating. Then there's the vehicle segments. They're competent and add variety, but not all of them hit the mark. Some feel sluggish and unresponsive, dragging down the otherwise tight gameplay flow. These issues don't ruin the experience, but they do chip away at the polish you'd expect from a Call of Duty campaign. Overall, Call of Duty World War II's campaign isn't perfect, but it's a fantastic experience from start to finish. The action feels grounded and immersive, with clear inspirations woven intelligently into the narrative, characters, and gameplay. Smart design choices come together to create a coherent and thoroughly enjoyable campaign. It feels like a true return to form for the series, a nostalgic throwback to what made the original games so great. For that, I have to commend it. It's one of the most memorable Call of Duty campaigns to date. It reminded me why I fell in love with this franchise in the first place. It's just a shame the series hasn't kept that same fire burning. Back then, every Call of Duty felt like it was made with a purpose, to push boundaries, to wow players, to leave a lasting impact. Now it feels like the spark is gone, replaced with a formulaic cycle of yearly releases designed more to sell skins and season passes than to deliver truly memorable experiences. The creativity and ambition that once defined Call of Duty have been buried under corporate bloat and safe design choices. Instead of daring to reinvent itself, the series seems content to coast on name recognition alone. And for longtime fans like me, watching that decline isn't just disappointing, it's heartbreaking.